Do you think power is measured in words, in shouts, in arguments? The one who raises their voice and imposes themselves as the one who dominates, but they have lied to you. They have made you believe that the world belongs to those who don't keep silent, when in reality, true power lies in knowing when not to speak. Have you realized how many times you try to justify yourself? How many times you feel the need to respond, to correct, to defend your point of view as if your life depended on it? You think that by doing so, you're showing intelligence, strength, and control. But the truth is different. Every time you speak without need, you show the opposite. Silence is the tool of those who truly understand the game, because the one who is silent observes. The one who is silent analyzes. The one who is silent controls. Those who cannot remain silent are dominated by their ego, enslaved by the need to be heard, and that, far from being power, is weakness. Look at it this way. In every argument, in every verbal confrontation, there are two types of people. The first is the one who reacts, the one who is carried away by emotion and speaks without thinking. That is the one who loses even though they think the opposite. The second is the one who listens, the one who lets the other exhaust themselves, the one who chooses their words with surgical precision. That is the one who wins. Socrates understood this centuries ago. He didn't impose, he didn't shout. He asked questions, planted doubt, and let others fall into their own traps. Steve Jobs used silence to make every word of his carry the weight of a sentence. Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary samurai, knew that true combat is not won with the sword, but with patience, strategy, and the absolute control of emotions. But most people don't understand it. Most people talk too much. They think that raising their voice demonstrates power when all they're doing is exposing their weaknesses. Every extra word is a clue about who you are, about what you fear, about what irritates you. And in the real world, giving away information is giving away power. Look at the most influential people. They are not the ones who shout the loudest. They are the ones who speak when necessary. They are the ones who pause, who allow silence to speak for them. They are the ones who can endure the void without feeling uncomfortable, because there lies the key. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill it with words because silence makes them feel insecure. But the one who masters silence masters those who fear it. Think about any argument you've had. What would have happened if instead of reacting, you had stayed silent? If you had let the other person wear themselves out, drown in their own verbiage, expose themselves unnecessarily? You would have realized that many times the best response is none. That many times letting the other person speak is the most effective way to disarm them. And here is the part no one tells you. Silence is not only a tool of control over others, it is a tool of control over yourself. When you are able to stay quiet, to hold back your impulses, to choose when and how to act, you are stronger than 99% of people. Because most people are slaves to their emotions. They react without thinking. They are carried away by anger, frustration, and fear, and in that moment, they lose. True power is not in winning arguments. It is in knowing when not to have them. It is in not falling into others' games. It is in observing without being observed, acting when no one expects it, moving with precision while others drown in the noise. And the best part is that when you learn to stay silent, when you learn to wait, when you learn to measure each word that leaves your mouth, the world starts to really listen to you. Because what is scarce is worth more. Because what is not said creates mystery, and mystery is power. So the next time you feel the need to speak, ask yourself, do I really need to say this, or can my silence say much more? The answer will surprise you, and if you learn to use it, it will change your life forever. And here is where we enter the most interesting part. It is not enough to know when to be silent. It is not enough to master silence. There is a deeper layer, one that almost no one understands: strategic invisibility. Because it's not just about what you say or what you don't say, it's about when you exist and when you disappear. And yes, this may sound strange at first, but it is the key for those who truly control situations. Think about the great strategists in history. They were not the ones who were at the center of everything all the time. They were not the ones seeking constant attention. They were the ones who knew how to disappear when necessary. They were the ones who let others wear themselves out in the noise while they moved in the shadows. True power is not held by those who are always present. It is held by those who know how to manage their presence. When you appear too often, you become predictable, you become routine, and routine loses value. But when you learn how to disappear, when you learn to make your presence scarce, you become much more valuable. And this applies to everything, in business, in relationships, in life itself. The most respected leaders are not the ones who speak at every meeting, not the ones who fill the air with their voice. They are the ones who speak when necessary, the ones who choose their moments with surgical precision. Steve Jobs didn't launch products every week. He took his time, and when he spoke, the world listened. Miyamoto Musashi didn't seek unnecessary fights. He stayed in the shadows until the exact moment to act. Da Vinci spent years in silence working on his ideas, and when he emerged, the world stood still.
But most people don't get it. Most people fear being forgotten. They think that if they're not always part of the conversation, they'll disappear. And to some extent, they're right. But what they don't understand is that strategic forgetfulness is a tool, not a punishment. If you know how to disappear intentionally, if you know when to retreat and when to return, you control the narrative. You control how you are perceived. You create an aura of mystery that makes you much more powerful than those who are constantly shouting for attention. And this goes beyond silence. It is a matter of control over yourself, because to disappear strategically, you need something most people don't have: patience. We live in a world of immediacy, where everyone wants results now, where everyone seeks instant validation. But those who truly dominate the game understand something fundamental. Time is a weapon. If you can wait, if you can resist the urge to react, if you can plan long-term while others are carried away by urgency, you've already won before the battle even begins. Patience is the highest form of power, because while others rush, you remain still. While others seek quick gratification, you build something that will last. Patience is the mother of control. Control over your impulses, control over your surroundings, control over how others perceive you. And here's the key. People fear those they cannot read, those who do not react as expected. If someone insults you and you respond immediately, they have already won. They've gotten a reaction. They've taken control of you. But if you remain silent, if you watch them without moving, if you let them consume themselves in their own rage without giving anything in return, do you know what happens? They are bewildered. They feel exposed because they expected resistance. They expected you to defend yourself. But when you give them nothing, when you give them emptiness, you take away their power. People hate the void. People need answers. They need reactions. They need an echo to validate their existence. But when you learn to deny them that, when you learn to give them only what you decide, you become someone they cannot control. And that is the real power. Being unreachable, not because you hide, but because you choose when to be and when not to, because you become unpredictable, because you master the game of silence, time, and invisibility. So the question is, can you endure patience? Can you endure the void without filling it with noise? Can you disappear when necessary and return with more strength when the moment is perfect? Because if you can do it, if you can control your own presence, then you have something that most people will never have: true power. And here comes the part that most people will never understand. When you master patience, silence, and strategic invisibility, there is an inevitable side effect: magnetism. The paradox is brutal. The more you talk, the less they listen. The more you strive to be seen, the less they notice you. But when you become scarce, when you become someone who is not always available, people start looking for you. It's psychological. What's rare, what's exclusive, what's inaccessible becomes valuable, and those who truly control the world know this well. Look at any figure of power. They are not accessible to everyone. They don't respond immediately. They're not everywhere. They're elusive. And precisely because of that, people chase them. Do the experiment. Stop being available all the time. Stop responding immediately. Stop exposing every one of your thoughts and watch how people's perception starts to change. Suddenly, you are interesting. Suddenly, they want to know more about you, because when you leave a void, people want to fill it. But most do the opposite. They fear silence, fear absence. They believe that if they disappear, they will be forgotten. But they don't realize that true influence is not in constant presence, but in controlling when and how you appear. And this applies to everything, in personal relationships, in work, in social life. The one who is always available, who is always there, who always responds, loses value, because what's common becomes invisible. But the one who becomes scarce becomes valuable. Think about the most coveted objects in the world. They're not the ones on every corner. They're the ones that are hard to get. They're the ones few have access to. And it's the same with people. If you give yourself too much, you get consumed and discarded. But if you manage yourself, if you are selective, if you control your presence with surgical precision, you become unforgettable. And here comes the next level. The manipulation of desire. Because when you understand that what is scarce is valuable, you can use it to your advantage. You can appear just when they want to see you. You can speak just when they are waiting for an answer. You can move when they least expect it and make a huge impact. But for that, you need to break the need for validation, because most people don't have the patience to disappear. They don't have the composure to endure silence. They need immediate attention, and that's where they lose. The one who masters the desire of others is the one who is not moved by impulses. He's the one who waits. He's the one who lets the other person consume themselves in uncertainty. It's a law of nature. What is chased runs away, and what retreats is pursued. If you're always talking, if you're always present, if you're always available, they will never miss you. They will never look for you. They will never value your presence because they've never lost it. But if you learn to control your presence, if you disappear at the right moment and reappear with force, you become someone impossible to ignore. And this is the highest level of power, when you are no longer the one seeking, but the one being sought. When you are no longer the one wanting attention, but the one receiving it without asking for it. When you are no longer the one chasing something, but the one making others chase you. Do you realize the game? It's the opposite of what you were taught. It's not about talking more. It's not about being more. It's not about making more noise. It's the opposite. It's knowing when to be silent. It's knowing when to disappear. It's knowing how to become scarce, to become invaluable. So now the question is, do you have control over yourself to do it? Can you endure the void without filling it with words? Can you retreat without the fear of being forgotten? Because those who can do it are the ones who end up controlling everything. And here is where we enter the highest level of control, the psychological warfare of silence. Because silence not only gives you power, not only makes you valuable, not only creates mystery, it's also a weapon. And most people don't even realize they're being attacked until it's too late. Let me explain. When you speak, you give information. Every word is a clue about what you think, what you feel, what matters to you. Every reaction reveals your weaknesses. Every explanation shows where the blow has affected you. But when you remain silent, when you only observe, when you give nothing, the other person becomes desperate. They get uncomfortable. They begin to project because humans can't stand uncertainty. Look at any argument. If someone insults you and you react, you give them what they want: validation, attention, a sign that they've touched a sensitive spot. But if you say nothing, if you just look at them, if you don't give them a single word, their mind enters crisis. They start asking themselves, why isn't he responding? Did I affect him, or does he just not care at all? And the worst thing you can do to someone who wants a reaction from you is deny them that.
Silence in an argument is a mirror. It doesn't reflect what you think, it reflects what the other person fears. Because when you don't give them answers, when you give them emptiness, the only voice they hear is their own. And that's when fear, insecurity, and paranoia begin to do their work. And this applies to everything, in negotiations, in relationships, in conflicts, in any human interaction. Professional interrogators know this well. Sometimes the best way to make someone confess something is not to press them with questions, but to remain silent and let their own mind do the dirty work. The discomfort of the void is unbearable for most, and that makes people talk, expose themselves, justify themselves, reveal things they didn't mean to say. Those who do not master silence end up confessing their fears without realizing it. And here comes patience as psychological torture, because the one who controls time controls the other person's mind. If someone is waiting for your response and you delay it, every minute becomes a torment. They start imagining scenarios, filling the void with their own fears, assuming things that might not even be true. The best attack is often not a direct attack, it's letting the other person consume themselves in their own uncertainty. Great strategists understand this. They don't need to win fights, they don't need to prove anything, they just wait, they just observe, they just let the other person wear themselves out. Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary samurai, didn't just master the sword but also patience. In his duels he sometimes deliberately arrived late, he made his opponent wait for hours under the sun, consumed by anxiety, mentally exhausted before even drawing his sword. By the time the fight began, his rival had already lost, because the fight is not won with the blow, it's won in the mind. And the best way to win without fighting is making the other person defeat themselves. You see it in human relationships all the time. The one who tries the least, the one who doesn't chase, the one who doesn't seek validation is the one who ends up being chased. Why? Because people want what they can't control, because when someone doesn't go out of their way for our attention, it frustrates us, it makes us want to know more, it forces us to fill the voids with our imagination. And here's the key, the imagination is always worse than reality. If someone doesn't respond to your message, your mind starts to make up reasons, and in most cases the reasons you come up with are much more intense than what is actually happening. If in an argument someone stays silent, the other person starts thinking they maybe went too far, that maybe they said something they shouldn't have, that perhaps what they said had no effect, and now they've lost control. And in that moment, the one who stays silent wins. The problem is that most people don't have the discipline to do this. We live in a world where everyone feels the need to respond, to demonstrate, to justify themselves, and that makes them predictable, manipulable, weak. True players of the power game understand this. They don't need to raise their voice, they don't need to win every argument, they don't need to prove anything to anyone, they just wait, they just observe, they just let others destroy themselves with their own need for validation.